Hello everyone, today's poem is 春望 by 杜甫. So we continue to talk about the poems about spring, and happily this is also by 杜甫 as well. You can have a little comparison between the poem 春夜喜雨 by 杜甫that I published days before. This poem was written in the capital city, Chang'an city, 1 year after the civil war, Anshi 之乱 broke out. Though he was such a patriotic person, of course he has a lot of the personal pursuit of himself. He went to the imperial exams, but even he was on the top list of the final result, but because of the corrupted politics, because of the bad premier, nobody was recruited for times, and later on he happened to be appreciated by the emperor himself, so he got a very small position, very lower position, and he refused position. He thought that's not position is not paralleled to his talent, to his capacity. And later on, just the same year of the civil war broke out, he had to went to another lower position, but fortunately this position was in the capital city, Chang'an city, where he want to live, and also he was had to take the position because he's 44 already and he has no income for such a long time. He cannot support his family anymore. So when he got this position, he went to the north of the capital, the countryside where his family lived, to pay a family visit, his wife, his sons. At that time, his family was in such a poor condition. His little son died because of the starving, because of the hungry. So he had to take the position. And in the winter of this year, when he was still in his family with his wife, with his other children, outside of the capital city, the civil war broke out in the winter, and he was trapped in the countryside, Fuxian, the country named Fuxian, north to the capital city, 100 or 200 kilometers north to the Chang'an city. And later on, a new emperor came up. He's trying to find people to put up the rebellions. So Du Fu heard this news. He went to the new emperor, and on the midway he was he was caught by the rebellion troops, and he was sent back to the Chang'an city, the capital city. At that time, almost 1 year after the rebellion started the war, the capital city was sacked by the rebellions, and he was caught together with the famous poet Wang Wei as well, because Du Fu was such a junior position. Later on, he was released by the rebellion troops, and Wang Wei was still kept by the rebellion, because Wang Wei is so famous at the time, and was at a much higher senior position and has a lot of influence on the people, on the intellectual peoples, of course. So Du Fu stayed in Chang'an City, or trapped in Chang'an City, for quite a long time, and he also saw the royal people that lingering around the city as a beggar. So that's the situation in the capital city. And he went to the places, the royal gardens, the beautiful riverside, which used to be the place for parties, for dining events, for celebrations. And now he wrote a lot of poems about this period, and it's all a sad story. And so this is poem today we shared is one of the in the roughly 1 year after the Civil War breakout, and he stayed in the Chang'an City for months. Okay, let's have the poem first. Very straightforward poems. 国破山河在，城春草木深。国破 is a very typical Chinese concept. So how the country broke. So we have to trace down the very origins of the characters of Guo. So the Guo at the first beginning means a castle or a place surrounded by the city wall, and that's not enough. It should be guarded with the army. So normally that's the place of the king's place, and surrounded is villages. Some villages have their own city walls, but it doesn't have army guard that city. So from the characteristics, from the Guo characteristics, you can see the outskirt, the square, that refers to the city walls. At the very beginning, there is a weapon, 戈, inside this square. And finally, with simplified Chinese, we put Wang, the character Wang, which means the king. So the king inside the city wall. And from the very beginning, the characters also notify this city should have city wall, and the troops, the army, guard it. So in the classic literature, Chinese has a long period, more than 2,000 years of the official history recorded. So all the terms they used is 国破, which means the capital was broken, the city wall of the capital broken. That's in the surface, which means the capital city was occupied or was sacked by another country or another army. So that's the very original meaning of 国破. And before this poem, this famous tongue poem by Du Fu, normally these words only appears in the history books by the official history historians. And because of the popularity of the tongue poems and this poem, the 国破 later on became a normal words. It just means a country was occupied, or the country was sacked by another army or by another country. So in this sense, it's hard to tell what's the real meaning by Du Fu is. It could be referring to the capital city was sacked by the rebellion armies, or it can also refers to the country was broken and the country was in a chaos. 山河在, so the mountain and the river is still there. So in the classic literature, 山河 has its very precise meanings. So you can check the map. The 河 it only refers to the Yellow River, and 山 is hardly to tell. Sometimes we have the 5 sacred mountains. So 3 of the 5 sacred mountains is along the Yellow Rivers, which is Huashan, the east sacred mountain, and Songshan, the central sacred mountain, and the Taishan, the east sacred mountain. So this is the very cold place of the classic Chinese land, and this almost refers to the country land. So finally, 山河 the real meaning derived to refer the country land, the country. And so let's have a look back the first sentences again. It's quite straightforward to modern Chinese, but I just explained how this meaning changed. So the 国破, the capital city, was sacked, but the country land is still there. 城春草木深, Chang, so now we refer to the city, the capital city, Chang'an, is in the springtime. So we are talking about the spring. This is about the springtime. 草木深, 草 grass, 木 woods. So the Chinese distinguish the plant very precisely. So the 草木 combined together refers to the plants. The plants is very deep. If this city was abandoned for times, for months, the grass will grow wildly. It becomes very high. So the 草木深, the grass and woods is very deep. Actually, it means the grass grows to a very high level. So it looks as a very wild place. So this sentence means the capital city became a wild place, and just after rebellion take over the capital, Du Fu saw by himself the royal families, the prince is just on the street as a beggar. 感时花溅泪，恨别鸟惊心。感时 here is not only refers to the time, actually it refers to the status quo. So we have the term still used today, 时政, which means the politics. The 时 is the time being, 政 is the politics, 时政. So 感时 he's thinking or worried about the time being, the status quo. What is status quo? The capital was sacked, 国破. So when he thought about this, and the flowers looks like it's tearing, the flowers tearing. So he compared the flowers as a human being. This is normally the flowers represents the prosperous, the life, the growth, and the happiness. But for the time being, for the status quo, when the poet Du Fu himself thought about it, when he looked the flower surroundings, he thought the flowers is tears down. 恨别鸟惊心. So from the status quo, the country sacked, the capital was sacked by the rebellions, he thought about his families, the sorrow of the departing from the families. And at this time, there are some of the birds, the singing of the birds, make him more sorrowed or sad, which is astonished him or surprise him or make his sad mood much more. So normally in the birds in the springs, it's the typical image for Chinese is very lively. It's the very energetic. It's like the spring. It's a time to growth. It's a time for the life to growth. So, because of the feelings and the thoughts of the poet himself, there used to be very positive things became so negative. The flower tears, the singing of the bird make him more sad, feel so bad. So the first paragraph is about the situation and the feelings about poet himself. And now with the second paragraph, he goes through more details of himself. 烽火连三月，家书抵万金。烽火is the fire, alarm fire used by the very ancient Chinese troops. So it has a lot of the fires, so it can convey the message to the capital city, to the king, to the emperors very quickly from far from. And this is only for the wars, for the most critical situations. So here, the 烽火 refers to the wars. The wars has continued for 3 months. 家书抵万金. So the 书 is not books, it's letters. So that's the difference meaning from the classic Chinese and today's Chinese. So 家书 is the letter from the home. Is the value of the letter equals to 10,000 money. 白头搔更短，浑欲不胜簪。白头. So here we know the poet in the age of 45. He was white-haired already, and because of the poor life as told, and also because of the Civil War, the much poor life during the Civil War for 1 year. So he was white-haired, and he saw means he scratch his hair. So that means there's so much difficulties and so much troubles for him when he think hard, when he feels very nervous, he scratch his hair. That's a very typical actions. So his white hair was much shorter. That means his hair, he lost a lot of hairs. 浑欲不胜簪. 浑 is almost, and this is also a little different from the today's meanings. Today the 浑 means the whole, something of the whole, and in this poem the 浑 is almost. So the almost cannot hold on the 簪. 簪 is just like a stick. So in the ancient Chinese people, we never have the hair cut because that's the things our parents gave us. That's the most valuable things you should take care of. So you can never hurt yourself even with the hair. So the Asian Chinese never have the hair cut. So they for the men, they wrap their hair above, and there's a big ball-like hairs here, and he used a stick to go through the hairs and make it fixed. And later on, he used a piece of clothes to wrap it. So finally, you won't see too much of the hair, and you'll see a clothes wrap on the hairs. So normally, Zan also refers he has a position of the time being, because he should make his hair very well managed to take the official's hat, the guan. So there's a hat for the officers. So normally in the Tang poem, you sometimes you see the words 散发. So in the surface, that means the hair was put down, or not wrapped, not in shade, not with a stick of the zhan. So he, just like today's women, let their hair goes down, 散发. But the real meaning is because normally only the elite people write poems in the Tang Dynasty. So he's not in the position of the government, because he has no. It's not necessary for him to make his hair in a well managed, and he put a officer's cap on top of it, so he can let his hair goes down, not wrapped together. That's it. So 散发 in the Tang poem means he's not in the status in the government, or he was in a vacation. So that's the hair. This poem is a very popular poem, a must to recite for the Chinese kids, and it's fall in the category of the patriotism, a very hot topic today, but actually that's the ultimate topic for the Chinese intellectuals, for the Chinese elites. So through the histories, when this poem was written by Du Fu, it's always a very hot and popular poems. Poem has created a new type of image for the Chinese literacy, that the spring could be sad. We call it 伤春悲秋, and it became a very popular type in the Song Dynasty, 伤春. So before the Tang Dynasty, there is some poems about the sadness of the spring, but normally it's the topic is about a girl, a woman, because the spring represent two things, love and the life growth. So in the springtime, it's quite easy for a girl or for a woman feel sad because she didn't get the love. Some of the poets will pretend to be as a woman and write the story or the feelings on the basis per the feelings of a girl or a woman. And the only poem other than the girls' or women's affair on a sad spring is by Qu Yuan. So here is the words. 目极千里兮，伤春心。魂兮归来，安江南。So he look 1,000 miles. He feels sad about the spring, the sad spring. Okay. 魂兮归来，爱江南. So my soul come back, and I feel so sad about the Jiangnan, the south of the Yangtze River. Why? So that's also about 国破, Qu Yuan belongs to the country of Chu, and the country of Chu was defeated or occupied by the country of Qin. So the same as the poem Du Fu write about Chunwang, so the 国破. So it's all about the patriotism. After writing this poem, 3 years later, Du Fu went to Chengdu city and stayed for 2 years in Chengdu. Du Fu write the poem 春夜细雨, the poem I put on YouTube days before. So you can have a little comparison and go back to see how a happy spring it is. From the 2 poems writing about spring by Du Fu, you can feel the several period of Du Fu's life. Before the Middle Age, he was just an elite intellectual, has his very strong will to pursue something, a position in the government, writing good articles, but in the name of the contribute to the country. But after the Civil War, when he writing this poem, you can feel he was a true patriot. Anyhow, there's nothing about the people. It's just about the country and himself, his family. And in the 春望喜雨, the poems written in Chengdu, several years later after this poem, you can feel he was a true lover of people, the average Chinese people. There's no mention about the emperor, no mention about the country, no mention about himself, no mention about his family. Just people. Everything he cares, all he cares is the people. And then with this sort of the thinking or feelings, he died several years later after 春望喜雨. Okay, that's for today. Bye bye.